Hello and welcome to the very first video episode of the High Ticket Handbook newsletter. In this episode, I will be talking about how you can close a $10,000 deal in just 10 minutes. And I will be explaining how you can do it by taking a look at how I did it just this week. Earlier this week, I posted a series of 3 LinkedIn posts. All of them were carousel posts and I posted them on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Each of the carousels had about 5 slides and they were all about how you can beat the recession which is on the horizon right now. These posts must have struck a nerve because a lot of people contacted me afterward. They booked a 30-minute call with me to figure out what's wrong with their business and what they can do about it. And it turns out one of the people who booked a call with me was a perfect match for one of my agency clients. So I spent about 10 minutes of the call getting to know them and another 15 minutes trying to understand what's wrong with their business and what they can do going forward. And then I pitched the service of my client for about 5 minutes and set up a next call, and that was it. The next call was on the next day and it was very familiar. It was between me, my client, and the person who contacted me. And we spent another 15 minutes to figure out what's wrong with the business. Again, because it's always good to repeat things over and over to make them more legitimate. And then it was just 5 minutes of pitching and 5 minutes of figuring out the logistics. And the next day we had the contract signed and the money in the bank. My share in all of this, 20% commission. Not bad for a Tuesday. And normally closing deals takes way longer, especially when it's a high ticket deal, because the higher the price, the longer it takes to close it. So before we dive into how we can solve this problem, let's take a look at it to get a more thorough understanding of it. Imagine yourself as a chauffeur. Your task is to drive someone from A to B and they really need to get there. But they are also really anxious. And that's why the really anxious person had a second brake pedal installed in your car. This means you can drive the car normally, but they can hammer the brake at any time. And this means whenever they feel anxious, they are going to pump the brakes and the car will come to a stop. They don't like your speed, they stop. They think you're going the wrong way, they stop. They don't like the way you talk to them, they stop. So my question for you is, what would you be doing with this kind of passenger? You would be communicating early. You would be communicating the route in advance. You would be communicating to them about how they can speak about their anxiety so you can slow down before they have to pump the brakes. You would probably be showing them your resume and your experiences. You would refer them to happy clients. Maybe you would even play some relaxing music. A wise friend of mine once told me, you have 2 ears but only 1 mouth. That means you should be listening twice as much as talking. And it's really true. The more you listen to your clients, the easier it becomes to connect the dots. And if you are connecting what you are saying to something they have said before, the more readily they will be absorbing the information you give them. Here's an example. Don't say, with email outbound you can reach 3,000 new decision makers a month. A, that's very boring, and B, it doesn't connect to anything. It's just a random fact. Instead, try something like this. You said your network has dried up recently and there are no more leads coming in through your network. We've been seeing this with other companies as well, and it's only going to get worse from here. What this means is that you need to build a new lead generation channel. You also said that you need to see results in the next 2 or 3 months. And this rules out most inbound marketing channels. And in my opinion, all of this really leaves you only with one option: email outbound. This way you can reach 3,000 new decision makers a month, and it only takes 2 weeks to set up. By communicating this way, you hindered all of their objections. Things like, I'm not sure if this is right for me, or I'd feel more comfortable with an inbound channel because I don't have to face so much rejection, or I'd rather keep relying on my network. By communicating early, you cut off all the objections before they could even arise. The more time you spend building trust in advance, the easier it will become to close your deals. Another saying is, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. But as a founder or as a solopreneur, sometimes you just cannot afford to go slow. Founders and solopreneurs, like me, are wearing many hats and sales is just one of them. Very often they don't have the time or the patience to smooth talk someone into a deal. And this is where content comes in handy, such as this newsletter, because content turns your one-on-one interactions with your clients into one-to-many interactions. Your content could already be building trust with your clients on your behalf while you are off doing something else in the meantime. And that's exactly what happened with my client this week. They had seen a lot of my content before, and it was just a matter of time until they had built enough trust to reach out to me and ask me for help with their problem. So if you find yourself saying the same thing repeatedly, disarming the same objections repeatedly, turn it into content. If you're saying it a lot, that means a lot of people need to hear it, which means you should be turning it into content. Let's go back to our example of the anxious passenger. If you were trying to build trust with them in advance, you would probably try something like this. If you drive the same route repeatedly, you would maybe record it on video and send it to them in advance so they can get familiar with it. Maybe you would let them take a look at the navigation screen. A video testimonial of prior clients, if it comes up a lot, you should probably be turning it into content. When I was starting out on LinkedIn, I struggled to create a content strategy that really fit my business and my approach because everything was just so complex. Most advice on LinkedIn lead generation is completely useless. You can forget about it and you can stop consuming it. Most people who are successful with lead generation on LinkedIn are just people who teach other people how to do lead generation on LinkedIn. It's like the old saying goes, in a gold rush, the person who gets richest is the one who's selling the shovels. It's almost like a pyramid scheme. It's all about vanity metrics. It's about followers. It's about likes. It's about interactions. And it doesn't help you. None of that matters, believe me. So here's some real talk for you. If you are selling a high-ticket product, an audience of 1,000 people per post can be enough if the post is relevant and if it's a high-value audience. So how are you building a high-value audience? You're doing it through posting high-value content instead of clickbait content. You don't want 1,000 people to get in your car. You just want 1 or 2 people who are going to let you drive them all the way so you can charge them premium. And that's pretty much it for today. If you have questions about high-ticket sales, let me know so I can turn them into content for you. And if you need help with your business, with lead generation, with positioning, with your offer, or with just surviving a sales call, give me a call. We will be figuring things out together.